Johnny Carson had just finished his opening speech on The Tonight Show when he joked with his guest, Clint Eastwood. Johnny started to cry when Clint did the next thing. It was a secret that the toughest man in Hollywood had kept secret for 15 years. The date was November 14, 1985. The offices of NBC are in Burbank, California. No one saw it coming, but one of the most memorable moments in TV history was about to happen on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. There was no plan for this part. Not a single practice or plan was used. Someone who had worked on the show for decades later said they'd never seen or experienced anything like what happened that night because it was so real and emotional. There were 465 people in the studio audience who had to wait months for tickets. They had no idea what they were about to see would forever change how Americans saw Clint Eastwood. After 23 years behind that desk, Johnny was at the top of his game. He had talked to leaders, movie stars, and entertainment legends from every field. He believed he had seen everything. He was wrong. The crowd went wild when Clint Eastwood came out from behind that famous rainbow screen. He walked with the slow, deliberate step that made him famous. As an American, he was 6 feet 4 inches tall and had eyes that could stop a man in his tracks from 50 yards away. He sat down in the guest chair after shaking Johnny's hand. Most people who watched didn't know that these two guys had been friends for almost 20 years. They played golf at Johnny's house in Malibu and ate dinner late at night without cameras around. Behind the Hollywood masks, they knew each other. The interview began normally. Clint was running ads for his new movie, Pale Rider. They told each other tales. People in the room laughed. It all felt normal and relaxed. But after about 15 minutes, Johnny leaned forward and looked at me with a sly grin. He was going to joke. Some simple, safe fun between old friends. Clint Eastwood had been hiding his story since the night his father died in a hospital room in 1970. Johnny didn't know this, and no one else in the studio did either. A promise that was kept hidden, a deep sadness that made the man who never cried appear weak on TV about to break down in tears. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments where you're watching tonight. If you're new, welcome to Celebrity Unseen, where we tell you the stories behind the stars that haven't been told before. Things were going well with the interview. Clint was at ease and entertained the crowd with stories from behind the scenes of Pale Rider. People couldn't get enough of his dry humor. After that, Johnny chose to have fun. He said that Clint was known for being quiet and strong. Drew attention to his most famous parts, like the man with no name, Dirty Harry, and the cowboy whose squint said more than his words. People in the room laughed. Johnny leaned back, and that smile spread across his face. I've heard some interesting things about you over the years, Clint. You don't talk about your secret skills. Clint made a face. Is that true? Johnny made a big motion toward the grand piano that was next to Doc Severson's band. I think I heard that you play the piano. Is that real, or is it just Hollywood make-believe? People in the room laughed. The idea didn't make sense. Tickle the ivories with dirty hair. The man on screen who had killed 500 bad guys was relaxing to a soft tune. Johnny pushed harder, making the most of the chance. Why don't you play us something? I mean, in your movies, you've used every gun known to man. You must know how to play the piano. The famous laugh of Ed McMahon filled the studio, and the audience joined in. But Clint wasn't laughing. He sat very still in that guest chair. His expression changed just a little, but Johnny could tell because he had been reading guests for 23 years and could tell when the energy in the room changed. Something had changed. There was silence in the studio for 3 seconds, which is 5 seconds in TV time, which seemed like an age to Clint. He looked down at his big hands, the hands that had built an empire on screen, but now they seemed uncertain. Johnny began to backpedal. Hey, Johnny, I'm joking. You don't have to. Actually, Clint. His voice was calm and measured, but there was something heavy under it. I think I will. Johnny raised an eyebrow. Are you serious? Clint asked slowly as he got up from the guest chair. The audience murmured in confusion. It was quiet in the studio as he walked toward the piano, his boots resonating on the stage floor with the weight of something no one in the room could understand. He sat down at the bench and his hands hovered over the keys. Doc Severson put down his trumpet, and Ed McMahon's smile turned into something solemn. Camera operators looked at each other, and Johnny got up from behind his desk and walked closer. He had a feeling that something important was about to happen. Then, for the first time in his career, America saw something new in Clint Eastwood's eyes. Clint had been keeping a secret since the night his father died, a promise he made in a hospital room that he thought he'd never have to keep. To understand why this moment was so important, we need to go back to Oakland, California, during the Great Depression. Clint Eastwood Jr. was born on May 31, 1930, in San Francisco, California. But his family never knew stability. During the Depression, Clint's father, Clinton Sr., looked for work wherever he could find it, and the family moved all the time. They lived in Oakland, Piedmont, Sacramento, Pacific Palisades, and Spokane. By the time Clint was 15, he had lived in more towns than most people visit in a lifetime. His father worked as a steel worker, a gas station attendant, and a bond salesman, doing whatever it took to make ends meet. His mother, Ruth, kept the family together through sheer willpower. She was the steady hand when everything else was going wrong. They didn't have much in those early years, but Clint Eastwood Sr. had a secret love, music, especially the piano. When he was younger, before the Great Depression crushed so many dreams, he played jazz standards, Beethoven, and sometimes his own compositions. He was so good at it that people who heard him said he could have done something with it, but work, family, and survival got in the way. The piano became a distant memory that he only touched in secret. Late at night, when young Clint was supposed to be sleeping, he would hear his father playing softly on whatever old piano they had access to. The notes would float through the thin walls of whatever rented house they were living in that year, and Clint would sneak out of bed and sit on the stairs to listen. His father would never know he was there. Those secret moments became some of Clint's favorite childhood memories. He loved hearing his father find peace in a world that didn't give him much of it. Clint wanted to learn, but there was neither the money nor the time for lessons, and his father, being so proud, never offered to teach him. Maybe it was because the piano reminded him of everything he had given up. As Clint got older and started to dream of being in Hollywood, his father was there for him no matter what. Even when other people said acting was a waste of time and letters of rejection came in, "You've got something special, son. Don't let anyone tell you different," Clinton Sr. would say. One evening in 1965, Clint, who was becoming famous thanks to the spaghetti westerns, sat with his father at the family home in Northern California. Clinton Sr. was older and his health was starting to get worse. As the sun went down, they drank drinks on the back porch and his father became quiet in thought. "Clint, can I ask you something?" "Anything, Dad?" "When you have time and the movies stop, will you learn to play the piano?" Clint looked at him puzzled. "Not for the crowds, not for Hollywood," his father said. "Just learn it for yourself. Show people that tough guys can be gentle too. That strength and music aren't opposites." Clint smiled, not fully understanding the weight of the request. "Sure, Dad." He'd said it in a loving way, but he didn't know how much those words would come to mean. Then life happened. The man with no name, messy hair, was a director, producer, and Hollywood legend. The promise faded into the background noise of a busy career until February 1970, when Clint got a phone call that changed everything. His father had a massive heart attack. The doctor told him to come quickly, because there wasn't much time. Clint dropped everything, he was in the middle of filming, and flew to Los Angeles right away. He drove straight to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center and into a room where his father lay connected to machines that beeped in a rhythm that no son ever wants to hear. Clinton Eastwood, Sr., who had worked every job imaginable, survived the Depression, and kept his family together through hard times, looked small and fragile in that hospital bed. Rue, Clint's mother, was already there with her eyes wide with tears and her back straight, as she always had. Clint sat down next to his father on the bed and took his hand. He didn't leave the room much for 3 days. When his father was awake, they talked about the good and bad times, moving from city to city, and how proud his father was of everything Clint had built. But there was something between them that neither wanted to name. On the second night, when it was just the two of them, Ruth finally fell asleep. Clinton Sr. reached for his son's hand. His grip was weak, but his eyes were still sharp. "Do you remember what you promised me, son?" Clint didn't understand at first, but then it hit him like a freight train: the back porch, the sunset, and the conversation about the piano. "Dad," he said, gently squeezing his hand, "it's okay, son. You've made me prouder than any father has a right to be. Forget about it. You've done enough." But it wasn't okay for Clint. It wasn't okay at all. After his father fell asleep that night, Clint called and had a piano brought to a private room across the hall from his father's room. The hospital staff thought he was crazy, but Clint Eastwood didn't care. For the next 48 hours, while his father drifted in and out of consciousness, Clint practiced. He had taken a few lessons over the years, but nothing serious. Now he practiced like his life depended on it. His fingers hurt and his back hurt from hunching over the keys. He wasn't trying to become a concert pianist, he was trying to keep a promise before time ran out. On the third night, February 22, 1970, the doctor said Clinton Sr. was awake and aware. It was one of his last clear moments. Clinton Sr.'s eyes lit up when he saw the piano. "Son, what are you?" he asked. "Just listen, Dad." Clint sat down at the piano, his big hands shaking over the keys. It wasn't from fear, love, or grief, but from the weight of everything he wanted to say but couldn't. He played Misty, the Errol Garner jazz standard, his father's favorite song, the one Clinton Sr. used to play late at night when he thought no one was listening. Clint wasn't perfect, his fingers stumbled in some places. Clinton Eastwood, Sr., started to cry as the room filled with music. "You remembered," his father whispered. "After all these years, you remembered." Clint couldn't say anything, he just kept playing. When the last note ended, he looked at his father and saw that the old man was smiling through his tears. It was a smile that Clint would remember forever. "That's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever done for me, son. Thank you." They held hands in silence while machines beeped softly outside. In that room, time stopped. 2 days later, Clinton Eastwood, Sr., died peacefully in his sleep. He knew that his son had kept his promise. Clint never told anyone about that night, not the press, not his co-stars, and not even most of his family. The piano was quietly taken from the hospital, and Clint went back to work and hid his grief behind the tough exterior that everyone expected him to have. That moment was private for 15 years, and the song didn't play until Johnny Carson made a joke. Now, sitting at the piano on the Tonight Show stage, Clint Eastwood felt the weight of those 15 years pressing down on him. 465 people watched, and millions more watched at home. His hands hovered over the keys, and for the first time since his father's hospital room, Clint Eastwood got ready to play. The studio lights felt hotter than Clint remembered, and the silence felt heavier than any Western standoff. His fingers touched the keys, and the first notes of Misty rang through Studio One at NBC Burbank. The audience shook. Some people knew the song, but it wasn't what he played that amazed them, it was how he played. It wasn't like a movie star showing off a party trick or a famous person doing something weird for laughs, it was like a man playing for someone who wasn't there anymore. Every note had meaning, every pause held a memory, and every chord seemed to bring out something from deep inside him that he had been hiding for 15 years. Doc Severson put down his trumpet and watched in shock.